Hi, I'm Tom Myers, and I'm pleased to welcome you to this program in the Technique series with the Anatomy Train's myofascial meridians. This time we're going to have some fun with the functional lines. Up to this point, with the other programs in this series, we've covered a lot of lines. The front, back, lateral, and spiral lines that traverse the legs and trunk, as well as the arm lines that go from the shoulders down to the end of the hand. The lateral line connects the shoulder and the hip on the same side, but we have yet to connect the shoulder girdle and the pelvic girdle contralaterally, and that's exactly what the functional lines do. There are two functional lines, and they both connect the humerus on one side to the femur on the other. Arm to leg or leg to arm, depending on what the action is. So the front functional line follows the lower edge of the pectoralis major, meaning it starts on the humerus, goes over to the fifth rib, follows the rectus abdominis, the outside edge of it, down from the fifth rib to the pubic symphysis, crosses through at the pubis to join with the adductor longus on the other side, which travels down behind the femur to attach to the linea aspera. So the two front functional lines form an X across the front of the body, and the two back functional lines forms an X across the back of the body, with the L5-S1 junction as the center of the X. So right to left and left to right. That makes 4 functional lines in all. These lines form spirals or helices around the body, and thus, like the spiral line, they contribute to rotational movement. Several points follow from this. First, the functional lines often act as extensions of the arm lines to extend the lever of the arm down to the opposite leg. Second, obviously coming from this, is that they get used in sports a lot: kayaking, climbing, tennis. And third, although they ought to be the same, the fact that we have a dominant hand means that the myofascial patterning, and thus the development, is going to be different on one side than the other. So, while we're showing precise lines of pull from one shoulder to the opposite hip, the forces in reality sweep along these large triangular muscles in any sports movement, like a golf swing. So they only cross this line in one particular moment. Thus, my finding is that while the muscular development can be a bit different in these two lines, only rarely does it significantly throw posture off. Functionally, however, they're very important, as we shall see. If you haven't already, you might like to look at the spiral line program in this series, which also deals with rotational issues. So, with that introduction, let's look at some manual soft tissue techniques for the functional lines. Then we'll look at some strengthening exercises. And finally, and don't miss this section, it's going to be really fun and useful, we'll look at assessing and treating the functional lines via movement. So the front functional line comes from the arm lines of one shoulder down across the chest, across the belly, crossing the midline at the pubic bone, into the adductors of the opposite leg, so that each shoulder is joined to the opposite hip. Okay, so let's get started with some soft tissue techniques for the front functional line, and we're going to work it from the arm down and over to the opposite leg. So our first technique will be with that outer edge of the pectoralis major, and we're joined this morning by Annie, our local structural integration practitioner and Pilates teacher, and we're particularly interested in the edge of the pectoralis major here, that lower leading edge that comes from here on the ribs and goes out to the arm. This is similar to what we did with the superficial front arm line, but since we're working with the functional line, let's give this a try. The pectoralis major starts right here on the fifth rib, and we'll bring this fascia up along to the edge of the brow line, and then we'll pick it up again right here. I like to use my other hand just for reassurance, and we'll catch that leading edge. Annie, is this okay for you? Mm-hmm. Yep, not too much?
No, fine.
Okay, and you'll feel the division that goes right between the biceps and the pectoralis, and that's what you're looking for. You can see the fold right here in the tissue, and you just want to bring that along and open that up. Now, we like to have people moving while we're doing this, so Annie, I'm going to invite you to lift your arm up and really stretch above your head as we do this. Good. Can you reach a little bit more? Farther out? Yeah, that's right. Draw the whole ribs along with it because we're really connecting over to the opposite leg. Yep, that'll do it. Okay, so we're joined here this morning with Elaine, a local massage therapist, and she's going to learn these techniques as they go. Why don't you take Annie's hand and put it up above? And if you could take your hands and put them here and see if you can open the tissue that joins the top of the rectus and the bottom of the pectoralis. That's good. If you want to just leave your hands there and have them be sensitive, and Annie, you just lift up against my hand. Yeah, you feel the pectoralis there? Okay. So you're trying to take that fabric and just ease it out towards this point in her arm. Okay, and you tell her, how's she doing?
She's doing well.
Good. So as you're moving out there, yeah, you have to switch from one side of the bra to the other. And, you know, breasts differ in size, but wherever you can pick up on this edge. Yep, there, you got the edge, that's it. And just open that up as you go, and don't forget to tell Annie to move. Yeah, that's it.
Right on up there.
Now that's a little nervy place right there.
Okay, there we go. How's that? Is that better?
Yep.
Okay, keep stretching. Keep stretching, that's good.
Good. Good, good, good.
So how'd that feel?
It felt pretty good except for that one little spot.
So if you picked up the nerves, again, if you want to check, Annie, just press against my hand. You see that edge of the, feel that edge of the muscle right there.
Yeah.
As long as you're on the edge of the muscle, you'll stay off the nerves.
Great.
Good. And while we're here, as the rectus abdominis comes up to here, it not only connects with the pectoralis major, but with the pectoralis minor. So if you're trying to open up somebody for this kind of front of the arm, don't forget the pectoralis minor. You can see lots of techniques for this on the arm line tape that is in this same series. So coming in under the pectoralis major fascia, along the ribs, not into the ribs, along the ribs, catch the clavipectoral fascia with the pectoralis minor and open that up. And then you breathe in as you lift your arm to, yep. Okay, and the next time you breathe in and stretch the arm at the same time. Just reach up. There's a beautiful plum just out of reach. It's cool, it's covered with morning dew, and it's going to be your best breakfast ever. Oh, that's it. Thank you. Okay, how bad was that?
It's fine.
Yeah, the image of the plum sort of took away the burning. Good.
It actually doesn't, it's not painful.
Well, don't tell them.
Okay.
Okay, great. Okay, so for this technique, Elaine, I'd like you to get down on the floor, if you would, with the same way I am, and put Annie's arm up. And we're going to slide in under here to the pectoralis minor. Now it's a what they called in massage school an endangerment zone, which just means there's lots of excitement in there. So work with sensitivity and caution, and if you feel the ribs, go along the ribs, not into the ribs, but along them. Okay, and you tell her when she reaches that pectoralis minor.
Okay.
Okay? And it's the same thing. If you lift your, not your arm, but your shoulder up. There. You feel that pectoralis minor ahead of you? Okay, so you're trying to come into that tissue and open it up. Now, pectoralis minor is not part of this line, but the fascia from the pectoralis minor is continuous with the rectus abdominis. So it's essentially part of the same line, whether it's actually part of the same line or not.
It feels pretty good. Just making sure to lift up, not press down. That's all.
Okay, so this is the idea of coming in from here with the heels of your hand on the table, is you're scooping that tissue up.
You also lifted skin up before she slid under.
What do you mean?
Sorry. You
That's
just,
okay.
you lifted lifted up and then slid under.
Okay.
Oh, I see what you're
Yeah.
saying. Okay.
Okay.
Good.
Is that getting it now?
Almost.
What's left?
Just needs to go further. Yeah.
Okay. So the thing
That's
of
it.
the thing of going
Okay.
the thing of going further, Elaine, comes not from your hands but from your pelvis or from your feet.
Mhm.
Just send your hands into her body from your own feet.
Mhm.
Yeah? Got
There
it?
we go.
Yeah.
There we
Good.
go.
Yeah.
Feel it.
Okay.
Yeah,
Got
that's
it. Good. So now you stretch up and breathe.
Yeah.
There we go.
That's
Good.
it. You can see the structure changing.
Good.
See it moving in there.
Very good. Oh,
We like that.
very good. I can feel it moving.
Mhm.
Good. One more little stretch there.
Okay. So you'll notice that most of our work is working up towards the arm, and that's mostly the way we work these lines to open up the motion of the arms. It could work in the other way as well. But we're working down the line progressively from shoulder to leg, and our next stretch here is the rectus abdominis. And you can get the rectus abdominis. I don't generally work below the navel here for obvious reasons, but you can get the rectus by scooping your fingers along the edge like this, making sure you go around the ribs, not under them, to keep that fascia going right up to where we started with the pectoralis major a few minutes ago. However, I also want to have a second technique in here. Find the edge of the rectus abdominis. If you can't tell, which I can clearly on Annie anyway, but if you can't tell, you just have them lift up their head and look at their navel. Could you do that? Then you can feel the outside edge of the rectus very easily, and getting your fingers on that outside edge, you run up that fascial edge toward the place where it crosses the ribs. And again, if you carried that up, it would carry you right to the outside edge of the pectoralis minor. You can repeat this a few times, and obviously it would be on that side that was more used because of the handedness of the person or the sport that they're engaged in or whatever. The idea here is to open up this rectus fascia, the abdominal fascia, where it leads into the pectoral fascia. Boy, I don't know if you can see it on the video, but Annie has very good circulation and dermographic skin, so I assure you she has not been damaged. This is just increased blood flow to her skin. So Elaine, if you want to take up what I was doing there, and yep, it's a full 6-finger contact, and you scrunch your fingers a little bit and then open them up to catch not the skin, but that layer of fabric that you can feel on the surface of the abdomen.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah? And then once you've caught that fabric, you're just going to run right up it. You can even tighten up your belly muscles if you want to. That gives her something to work against.
There we go. Nice.
Because it's that surface that you want to catch. Okay? And just, the idea now is to drop the heels of your hands to send that tissue, to scoop that tissue up along the belly. Now when you reach the ribs, you just
Go around
go, it's still a process of dropping the heels of your hands to go, that's it, right up on over the ribs. Still catching that fabric if you can, and right up to about the 5th rib or the bra line is fine with that. That brings you into contact with the last move that you did. Great, how'd that feel?
Felt good.
Yeah?
Yeah.
Similar?
Yeah.
Oh, well then she's doing a good
Yeah,
job.
she is.
Great. So the next part of this line is the adductor longus muscle, and remember it's on the other side because the rectus abdominis has come down here. Its fascia, the abdominal fascia, comes down towards the pubic bone, and also the pyramidalis. The little pyramidalis is part of this, but for obvious reasons we're going to leave that alone this morning. And as it crosses through the pubic symphysis and comes out on the other side, it reemerges as the adductor in the form of the adductor longus muscle. So press against my hand, Annie. You can see that tendon as it comes out of the crease in the leg. It's very obvious, very findable on everybody. You know, take a little skin with you, go into the muscle with your fingertips, hook your fingers and bring it with you. Bring some skin so you're not dragging on the skin. Drag the skin and your fingers over the fascia of this muscle, riding it if you can. It's a slippery little devil and sometimes you'll fall off. And just keep that going down the leg. About halfway down the leg to the knee is about as far as you can get. Now, you can make things a little easier by relaxing the muscle, and if you press your knee against my leg, that is a abduction, and that allows those adductors rather to relax. Doesn't feel very relaxed, does it? Okay, so just try relaxing anyway, and we'll bring this out. Okay, it's that simple. It's not that simple because it's a very tough piece of musculature in there, covered over with a thick fascial shell, but if you persist and open that up, you'll actually find that the opposite arm is able to stretch more. Okay, Elaine, so give it a try. You want to be able to find that tendon. Can you find the tendon right up close to her inguinal line? Yep. So
Have you tense that muscle? Great, perfect.
oh, okay, and then just it's as if you could reach in and pull it out, with her cooperation, of course.
How's that pressure?
It's fine.
Is it enough?
It's not quite as much as you had.
Okay, well I can...
Lots of people say that. Okay, so it's a question of coming in and grab and actually having hold of the fabric.
Yeah, that's what
And then bring the fabric with you. It may be only an inch, it may be a half an inch. It's not as if you have to go down the whole leg, and it's not a muscle thing where we're trying to relax the muscle. But just to let that fascial covering open up, ease up.
Good. Does that feel good?
Mm-hmm.
Good.
Great.
I think you got it. So the back functional line likewise joins the arm lines, but this time across the back of the rib cage, the thoracicolumbar fascia, the sacral fascia onto the gluteus maximus, the vastus lateralis, right around to the tibial tuberosity, thus joining the shoulder to the hip across the back. All right, now let's explore some techniques for the back functional line. It begins, as we'll demonstrate on Annie here, with the latissimus dorsi, and this tendon right here is the lat coming down in the back of the armpit. So if you just take and use the back of your hand to press that into the rib cage, and then I'm going to have Annie just fold down over me. And now lift your elbow straight up towards your head, and I ease down the back of the armpit toward her lower back. That's going along the middle of the latissimus. Essentially, I am pinning and stretching here. I'm pinning the latissimus against the scapula and the ribs and urging the humerus up. I'm just guiding her. She's doing it as she lifts it up. How's that feeling, Annie? Does that
It feels wonderful.
feels wonderful? That's great. So there should be a feeling of opening and stretching here, maybe especially the first time you do it, a little bit of burning, but not tearing or pain, any of that. You can do this usually 2 or 3 times and change your position slightly because the lat is such a big triangular muscle. Okay, now go ahead and take your arm up and down again, and you can feel the difference that provides.
Yeah, feels very free.
Okay, so Elaine, let's give this a try. So bring her arm up. Yeah, give it a hold, and bring your fist right into the corner. That's a very loose fist, just the back of your fingers. Yep. And the idea here is to take it down toward her hip, not up towards her shoulder. Yep.
How's the
That's
pressure?
great.
The pressure feels good.
And then just get her arm to move away from you. So most of the work is happening in her movement stretch, not so much in your pressure. That's good. We saw a similar technique in the lateral line in opening this up. Technically, the lat and the teres are part of this functional line, but it does help open up the side as well as this line going across the back. All right, let's try this again. And this time, see if you can drop your shoulder, your own shoulder, down onto your ribs and make this come from your hips. That's it. Good. Good. Sweeping down across the back. And as you go more to the back, she reaches more to the forward. And that's going to increase that stretch. Good deal. You feel that? Yep. And the bra's going to stop you, but you can kind of jump over that if you want to and pick it up right there. Yep. Okay, and Annie, you reach, and you're going right for the midline of the back there. Beautiful. I'd say she's got it, don't you? Yeah,
I think so.
I think so too. If you're not able to get that latissimus stretch to continue around the full length of that muscle, sitting on the bench is another way that you can get it, like this. So, Annie, if you could just take your arms wide, you bring your hands in against the ribs, and I'm using the back side of my hands here, and I'm getting right up against the ribs, and I'm putting my elbows wide. So now let your arms fall, and I'm going to bring the latissimus, and probably the teres as well, around the rib cage, as if I could peel it off towards the back, like that. Okay? The client, while I'm doing this, is taking a breath in and lifting their ribs on a big inhale to get a little bit of a stretch around the trunk. And I can modify this. If I go up towards the top, I'm going to get the upper edge of the latissimus. If I get out on the side and come down towards the hips, okay, take a deep breath again. I'm going to get the lower part of that big wide triangular muscle. And if I really want to increase the stretch, then I'm going to get Annie to lift her arms up. Get the client to lift their arms up. And as she stretches reaching way up with the arms, I get an increased stretch here. Now, Annie, being an accomplished Pilates teacher, was careful to keep her ribs back as she lifted the arms. Many people, as you do this, now lift up your arms again, will take the ribs way forward, and that stops the stretch of the latissimus here. So if the client has a tendency to do that, which Annie doesn't, you can keep the ribs where they belong with your pressure and your hands here to make sure that they don't just jack those lower ribs forward while you're doing this technique. Great. Okay, let's see what happens when a student tries this technique.
All right, Annie, how have you lift up your arms? Great.
That's good. Now get your elbows really wide. Get as big a surface. Don't tighten up your fingers. Let your fingers be nice and loose. And you're going to, as like you were peeling some fruit, just peel that right around the back of her. Good. Okay. And Annie, you take a nice deep breath in front.
Good.
She got that feeling?
She has it.
Good. Okay, so you notice that you could go up or down depending on what part of the muscle that you wanted to get. And just take another purchase here. Yeah, that's good. Just start there and pull that around and in. And now, Annie, you lift up your arms and you'll feel it pull right out from under your hands. It's a great way of increasing that stretch and making it even more. Great. Now there are a variety of ways of stretching out the lumbosacral fascia here, which would be the next part of this line as it crosses from the latissimus over to the gluteus on the other side. And one of the best ways to work it is with the client's weight. So this is very similar to the pelvic lift that we've seen in previous programs, but with a twist. So Annie, just roll your pelvis up in the air, and I slide my hand under her pelvis so that I'm not pressing on the spinous processes, but have my fingers divided. Now, I'm going to bring down along the sacrolumbar fascia here, and I'm going to allow my fingers to sink in as deeply as Annie's tissue allows, as the client's tissue allows. However, this be the thing. If I want to increase the stretch across this angle of the body, then I'm going to allow her knees to come towards me as I do this stretch, and that increases the stretch from her right shoulder to her left hip when the knees come to her right. Okay? It would be the opposite way, the other way, but it's easier to bring the knees toward you as you do this. I want to show you where my hands are. So, Annie, if you could just roll to your side here. See, my hand is under here, drawing down like this. What makes this as a diagonal move is the move of the client, moving to the side. And it has to be a twisting motion, so she keeps one shoulder on the table as we bring the knees over to the opposite side. Okay? Okay, Elaine, let's give this one a try.
Sure.
So you just want to instruct your client to roll the pelvis up in the air.
Can I lift up a bit? Great.
And you want your hand right in the center and get your elbow as far in as you can so that you're in the midline. You're really on the midline? Yep. And now reach this hand across both knees. Yep. So you just have her knees in your hand. And you're now going to crook your fingers and bring them down across her fascia, across the lumbosacral fascia, at the same time that you bring the knees down. How's that feeling, Annie? What's the difference? I can see there's a difference.
She's not moving yet.
Oh, okay. So now you're moving down toward her heels, toward her tailbone, dragging the tissue with you. You need to let your fingers settle into her tissue. That looks as though it's better. What's up?
It's much better. I need more on my right side. I don't feel your hand on my right side.
Okay. So as much as possible to keep those fingers even.
That's it.
Okay. So now the rate that your hand comes down and the rate that the knees come towards you is the same, so that there's a consistent twist through that. And it's actually this that's being stretched. It may feel like you're pulling over this way, but what you're actually stretching across the back is the lumbosacral fascia from, in this case, her right ribs to her left hip. So this is one of these helical lines that crosses the body, makes rotation, so a lot of the actions that we do with this are rotational. Great. That feels like you got it?
Yeah, I think so.
Good. Okay, so the next piece of this line is the lower part of the gluteus maximus that comes off the sacrum and comes down here to the outside edge of the femur, just below the greater trochanter. Once again, this is not really usually something that affects posture. However, there are in the lower parts of the gluteus, the lower edge of the gluteus, and then the attachment, good places to work here. So let's show you both of those. I often do this work with an elbow. If you find the greater trochanter and the ischial tuberosity and go about halfway in between, and you sink into the client a little bit. Is that still all right with you, Annie?
It's fine.
Yeah? And then go in a southwesterly direction. Oh, I'm sorry, inferior and lateral direction to bring that tissue down with you. There is a very tight place in the gluteus maximus, deep in the gluteus maximus muscle. This was taught to me by Vladimir Janda, the Czech physiotherapist. And a very important place it's proven to be to open that up. You feel that little thing? So I'm looking for that tightness on the back side of the trochanter and easing that out by bringing it down. I'll show you that it's easiest to do with your elbow, the flat of your elbow, by the way. However, I'll show you with my fingers so that you can see precisely where I am. We're using cross-fiber friction here, I suppose would be a way to talk about it. I just think about it as if you're taking unruly hair and brushing it out a little bit at a time. Just taking a little bit of that hair and using your fingers as a brush. And once you find the trochanter, you can find that shaft of the femur, and it's just on the back of that trochanter that you want to bring that tissue down and out and free up all that gluteus attachment where stuff gets really hung up in there. Is that okay with you, Annie?
Yeah, it feels for you.
Feels freer. Well, that's good. Okay, Lynn, so this is tougher, deeper stuff, so let's try using your elbow here, which just means you're going to move slower. Actually, just use your fingers to feel. There's a deep part of the gluteus that you can, if you strum in there, you'll feel. Yep. Okay, so that's the part. So put your elbow just above that, kind of the flat of your elbow, just above that place, and kind of catch it, and then bring it down towards you. Yep. So you're trying to melt it, but it's quite deep in the muscle, and it's quite tough. So, Annie, how do you feel about this? Is she getting there, but not too much?
She's not quite there.
She's not quite
She's
there.
Not quite as deep as you are.
All right, so
We can
Yep.
change that.
Yeah.
it's a question not of muscle, but just of weight, just letting your weight come into her body, that's it. And then when you're that deep, there's an inverse relationship between depth and speed. So slow down when you're in that deep. That's great. A lot of the functional line work that we do is fairly superficial, but this part, deep in the gluteus and at the gluteus attachment, is fairly deep. Now, what movement could you have her do? She could, this is not really much of a movement, but it does provide some relaxation in there. Press your knee into the table, Annie, and relax. And then press your knee into the table, and then relax it. Do you feel how that helps you in? Yep. Good.
Does that feel?
Feels good.
All right. Now, it's going to be the same type of thing. We're just going to move a little farther down here. Feel where the back of the femur is there. And we don't use words like scrape, but it's as if you were scraping the back of the femur, or, as I said before, kind of combing out a bunch of tough hair. Yep. So if you hook your fingers, so you kind of curl them in there, and you bring that tissue down and out, that's good. All right, I'm going to switch your position. If you stand here, yep, so that your pelvis can pull your fingers. So I know you're used to pushing as a massage therapist, but see if you can pull the tissue out and stay in contact with that bone. Okay, good. So relax just a second, come off. I'll just show you, if you were working across the body, you could push and get this done. Here's the stuff that I want to get. You feel that, Annie, right on the back of the
Yes, I do.
trochanter? So if I did want to push, the position you're in, you need to pull. But if I did want to push, I could work across the body like that. And it's still that same thing of finding where the tangled hair is, getting a little bit of it, and brushing out that tangled hair. Okay? Yep, that's good. Frequently, with overuse of the arm, such as in throwing or a lot of reaching, the back functional line loses its evenness of tone or gets improperly recruited. In this kind of case, it's good to give an exercise that uses and strengthens the line as a whole, and that's what we're about to show you. It's good to do these kinds of exercises after you've done the techniques that we showed you in the last section to free up any tensions within the muscles and to separate them from their surroundings. So this is really simple, but still effective. I'm going to ask you, Annie, to lift your arm, your left arm and your right leg up. Okay, now the idea here is that you're going to lift them both up. It doesn't matter so much how high, but that you're going to lift them both at the same time. So lift both my fingers and then come down. So do you notice that there's more pressure on your right arm and your left leg when you do that, right?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so feel the pressure come down on the one legs as you lift the other legs. You see how we have a kind of X across the body, and we're asking her to lift this leg of the X. Now if you want to increase, if you got somebody who's a really body-built person, and they've got the timing right, the first thing is the timing, that they both come up at the same point and both go down at the same point. Now you can add a little resistance to this and come up by just coming behind the knee and behind the elbow. Okay, a little extra strength required there. So just come up against my hands again. And that was good. And the other thing about having my hands on here is I can feel the timing absolutely precisely. So come up slowly and gently against my hands with the same timing. Beautiful. So technically this stretches the front functional line and works the back functional line. And don't do just one side, do both sides. So come up against I won't provide any resistance, just raise your right arm and your left leg. Do you notice any differences in that anyway, before you make any changes? In other words, is your right side as strong as your left side?
No.
No. Okay. So do watch the timing on this. The strength in the muscles is one issue, but the timing is the really important part, because particularly in somebody who's doing a lot of throwing and over-exercising the rotator cuff, the back functional line acts as a brake and saves the rotator cuff from damage. And if this isn't recruiting properly, then the rotator cuff is subject to damage. So just bring your arms up and your leg up right at the same time. And I can feel that so clearly with my fingertips. That's the easiest way to get that timing absolutely correct. So we have Ellen here to help us with the exercises for the back functional line. If you could just lift up your right leg and left arm together and put those down, and then lift up your right arm and your left leg together. Do you feel any difference in lifting those two? Or are they about the same?
I think they're about the same. Left one's a little harder.
Mm-hmm. That mean with the left arm?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. All right. So lift up the left arm and the right leg again. Okay, so the leg comes just before the arm. So let's just have the arm come a little bit faster. You want the timing on this to be really good, because what we're talking about is training the recruitment of this line so that it's very even across the line. As this line, yeah, go ahead. As this line acts like a brake, a B-R-A-K-E kind of brake, to the big long motions of the arm, and thus having this line recruit properly is really helpful for the rotator cuff and rotator cuff problems. So go ahead and lift the opposite now.
Oh.
Yeah,
Right.
this one and this one. Good. Now, if you got somebody who's really strong or is really sports oriented and you want to increase this, all you have to do is put a slight amount of pressure. It doesn't take much to make this a much harder exercise for the person. And once again, Ellen, see if you can get that timing. That's it. There goes your timing. Once more. Good. And you'll want to do this a number of times to get this set into the nervous system. And then finally, I'm going to add one more thing in Ellen's case, which is lift your arm and your leg together and then reach out as you do so. So we really get a strengthening and a stretching involved in this at the same time. That's great. I'm only showing this one or two times, but you'll want to have your clients repeat this a number of times, maybe several sessions in succession. So if you feel the need to stretch the superficial back line, you can do that on the table or on the floor, as we'll show you in a minute. If Annie, you could just go ahead and let that leg just drop right off the table, and you're going to reach over and grab the outside here to really bring that around. But now use your hand to really turn the leg in. In this way, we're stretching the latissimus across the body to the gluteus on the far side. So by really turning this in, are you feeling that or not yet?
Mm-hmm.
If you want to increase the stretch in the gluteus, bring it across that way, bring it across your body towards your hand, and then continue that internal rotation. Now you're really stretched out, so you could even stretch past your foot there to give that stretch some more. In that way, you can get a stretch on the back functional line if it's too short. Okay, so now let's try it on the other side and see if it feels and looks the same. Okay, so we just drop one leg over the side to keep it from being a hamstring stretch, and then reach across with this hand, grab the outside of the foot and turn that in. And oh, you're so stretched out, we really have to increase that by moving it across. And here we've got the stretch for the other side. Does it feel the same?
It feels, I have more range of motion on this side.
You have more range of motion on this side. That's what I think. Look at this hand. It's just keeping going right along. So, by reading the differences between these two sides, you can see where you need to work and where they need to work. So, if you should feel a need to stretch the back functional line, here's a way to do it. If I sit Ellen on the edge of the table so that she can lean forward with that leg relaxed, she can reach for the outside of her ankle. Now, and you can just let this arm relax if you can. And Ellen's had a spinal fusion, so this is going to, her back is not going to bend the way others, but she's still going to be able to get this stretch along the back functional line by reaching out with that arm and along the outside of the leg. Now use your arm to turn the leg into a medial rotation. How much medial rotation can you get at that hip? If that's a strong enough stretch, that's great. If you want more of a stretch, you can bring the leg across your body and still lean straight forward into that. Where do you feel that actually?
Right in the right ribs.
Right in the right ribs. So right in here? So where you feel that might be an area where that you can work, although Ellen's body is different from other folks, both because she's a yoga teacher and because she's had the spinal fusion. And if you were just to switch over to the other side, let's just see how it works on the other side. Drop the leg over the other side. Good. Reach across with this hand. And then for you, because your hips are open, bring that leg across and then see how that knee's going out? I really want that knee to turn in as you lean forward that way. Yep. It's an interesting, actually, little restriction in your hip, isn't it?
Yeah.
From that internal rotation. Yep. But that will give you a stretch for the back functional line. So this exercise for the front functional line is very similar to what we did for the back functional line. We're going to go across the body from right to left. We arrange the client in a kind of X pattern, as Annie is now. And so I'm going to invite you to simply lift the right arm and the left leg at the same time. Good. And just notice how that feels. And then this one, notice how that feels. Okay. So the timing thing is crucial here too. So let's see if the arm and the leg can come up at just the same time. That's it. And if you have your hands on the body, it's really easy to tell whether they've got the timing right or not. And try this one again. Yep, and you can feel lots of different things going on through the body, but right now we'll just focus on this. We want to add something to this, which is when you lift the leg, let the leg roll out, turn the leg out, and when you lift the arm, turn the arm into a medial rotation, okay? So come ahead up and add that, okay. And we're looking for the whole thing to be recruited together and come up and have a strong contraction and then totally relax, and then do the same thing on the other side. And I'm just offering a little resistance because Annie's muscles are strong, and giving that little extra resistance makes it actually into a strengthening exercise and helps the body feel where those muscles are. I'm only doing this a couple of times. You'll want to be doing this a number of times with the client, switching back and forth from right to left. This builds this coordination across the front of the body in contralateral girdles, and will help with sports motions and in generally stabilizing the shoulder on the opposite leg. The exercise for the front functional line is very similar. We set up the client on the table in an X pattern so that the legs and arms are a little bit spread apart, so they're really connected through these lines. And we're going to invite Ellen to lift her leg and her arm at the same time. And once again, go ahead. And if I keep my hand on here, I can tell exactly how the timing is. So again, the leg went up a little bit before the arm, so let's see if you can get them both there. And you can feel it right through the trunk when you get the timing right. We're going to add one extra thing to this front functional line exercise. As you lift up the leg, Ellen, turn the leg out a little bit as you lift it up, and turn the arm in a little bit. Yep, that way. A medial rotation, okay? So start from relaxed and come up and out with the lower leg and up and in with the upper arm. That's great, okay, and relax down. Now, do this a few times, just keep fully relaxed in between, and then start again. Breathing in, good. Breathing out. Fully relax. In this way, I'm feeling my way through her body as she is feeling her way through her body. And I can make it a stronger exercise by simply adding a little resistance, which I'm in the position to do. Just a small amount of resistance makes it a harder exercise for her. Strong exercise. And you'll want to do this, as with the back function line, you'll want to do this a number of times until people feel really coordinated. You feel how that's not quite as coordinated as the other side? So come ahead, bring that in. Yeah, that's better. Ellen's a fast learner. She brings it right in. And now add that medial rotation with the arm and the lateral rotation with the leg. So they're both going to go like that as they come up. Yep. The leg turning out and the arm turning in. Good. Now try that without my pressing. First one, and then put that down and use the other. And see if you can go right from one end to the other as if you were walking. Just one, then the other. Yeah, that's it. Walking or almost swimming, it is. Terrific. Good for strengthening the trunk, good for coordinating the contralateral shoulder and hip. Okay, for a stretch for the front functional line, you can use the table in a unique way. I'm going to ask Annie to get catty corner on this table so that really the hip is close to the table and that's falling off, and this shoulder is as close to the side of the table as we can get. Yep. And if she lets her arm and her leg hang, then gravity will do the stretch. If I'm feeling the need, I can add a little bit of weight by putting my hand above the knee and on the elbow and just increase this stretch a little bit more. You all right?
I'm great.
You're great. All
It's
right,
a long stretch from my arm all the way to my foot.
It's a long stretch from your arm all the way to your foot. That's what we're talking about with the functional lines. This is a good way to get this stretched out, and it's very hard to do this stretch on the floor. It's one of these ways in which you can use the table to its advantage. Okay, as a stretch for the front functional line, you can use the table in a unique way. If I get Ellen to go catty corner on the table here so that the hip is right over on one edge and she lets the leg go, and the shoulder is right over on the other edge and she lets that leg go. You can't get this stretch on the floor, but you can on the table, and gravity will do it. Gravity is hauling her leg down and her arm down and opening up that front functional line. If I want to increase that, all I have to do is put my hand on her knee and her elbow and just take my hands apart a little bit to increase that stretch. Is that okay for you?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So if I increase it a little more, you tell me when we're...
It's great.
Yeah, I think that's about where I'd like to be in terms of feeling the tissue. And you can feel it coming right through from one hand to the other in the connection across the front functional line. You can hold that stretch for as long as you want. Come on back to center. No? And go the other way. Obviously, if you're going one way, you'll want to go the other way. And a very similar thing, just letting the hip go off the table and the arm go off the table so that the weight of these two limbs helps to stretch. This way you can use the table in different ways. Now, for the rest of this program, we're going to use the functional lines to assess rotational movements in the body. In fact, this same assessment is also assessing the spiral lines and even the spinal joints. But who's counting? Now, the following combines assessment and treatment in one easy package. But making it easy is the object of the next few minutes of the program. Once you get the basic skills down, you will need to practice this with a lot of different people in order to make it yours. This is a simple but profound movement, but it takes practice, practice, practice. So, we have our friend Leah on the table to help us with our assessment of the functional lines, and here we go. So what we're going to do here is very simple, but it takes a little practice to make the simple easy. We're going to turn the client onto their side, rotate, roll the client across the table this way. Now I know that looks dangerous, but it really isn't, and we'll address the safety concerns here in a few minutes. But we need to get some technique down first. So let's imagine that your client is lying like this. How do you get here? Well, just bring the client's hands, or have them bring their hands, over their head, and the back of their hand will rest very easily in your palm, like that. Then you just curl your fingers around the base of their thumb and let your thumb and forefinger enclose the wrist. And then you have a very secure grip that feels good for the client and is very good for this move, because you then need to add the three elements in. The three elements of the movement are extend. By extend, I just mean lean away from your client. That means I can feel her weight. It means that she and I are in a codependent relationship. If I were to let go, I would fall over. But the tension holds us together. Perhaps you've been in a codependent relationship where tension holds you together. Anyway, you have the extension. You add now rotation. I'm just going to rotate one arm, and I'm going to rotate it in the direction I want her to go, which is a medial rotation as we go over this way. And I don't lose the extension when I add the rotation. So extension, keep the extension, add rotation. Rotation and extension, keep the extension and rotation, add simply walking across the body that way. So, same thing. Extend, rotate, translate. It's very easy as long as you keep all the elements. What you don't want to do is extend and then lose the extension and then put the rotation and then lose the rotation and try to translate it. It won't work to sequence the body that way. Now, once you have this down, if you take a look at her shoulder, you'll see that once I lift her arm, the next thing that's going to sequence, as we look at the sequencing through the body, is the scapula. Once I have the scapula, the next thing in the sequence is the upper ribs. From the upper ribs to the middle ribs to the lower ribs to the lower back to the hip to the legs, and right on through to the feet. So you can see her foot doing a medial rotation, same as her arm. We sequence that right down through her body. Arm to shoulder, shoulder to upper ribs to middle ribs and lower ribs, and lower back, hip, leg, foot. Beautiful. Okay, come back on your back. Now, you don't want to tip your clients onto the floor, that's for sure. So how do we make sure that this is safe? It's much safer than it looks like. But here's how you can make sure that it's safe. The first thing about safety is, as you come into this roll, where's the center of gravity? Center of gravity is in the pelvis, or just above the pelvis. So is her pelvis over the table? Yes, it is, yes, it is, yes, it is, yes, it is, yes, it is. I'd have to go, whoa, she's still on the table, she's not falling off. Okay, yeah, just let your leg go, it's okay. I won't let you fall, because all I have to do is pick up with the other arm and she comes back. So we take her almost off the table to where she was worried, but she needn't be worried, because I can always lift up. I'll show you on this side one time more. I can always lift up on the other arm, the underside arm, to bring her right back onto the table. So don't worry about tipping your clients off the table. Okay, so in terms of the soft tissue, if you watch what we're doing here, we're starting with the arm lines. In terms of the myofascial continuities here, we're starting with the arm lines. The arm lines takes us onto this back functional line. The latissimus crosses over into the lumbar fascia in the lower back, and that crosses over onto the gluteus on the other side. Okay, so if we see that on this side, the shoulder goes into the latissimus into the lumbar, and now we're into the gluteus on the side closest to you. We could also see this in terms of the spiral line, and in terms of the skeleton, we're sequencing these joints through the entire body, really, but particularly through the back and hips. So if we watch this sequencing, what you see is first I have her shoulder, then the ribs, then the middle ribs, then the lower ribs. Is that sequencing easy and steady through the body? That's what I'm looking for. Where are the blocks where something goes? Leah goes really easily through this side, and then when I go through her left side, we get the upper ribs, and then whoops, the whole rib cage comes as pretty much a block before we get to the lower back and the hips. So I could take this from an assessment and say, well, we need to do some work in the rib cage to make that more differentiated. Or I could turn this into the treatment right now. See if we could just say, starting from here, could you get the shoulder and let the ribs relax and find those middle ribs and the lower ribs. Maybe that's enough if somebody's just holding some muscle tension to allow them to release. If they're really fascially stuck, that's not going to release easily at all, and you'll find that you'll need to do some more soft tissue work there. But the only way you're going to make this sequencing thing your own is to practice it on 40, 50, 100 people. If you do that, you'll really find that you get tremendous amounts of information from this simple little roll. Now, some people won't allow you to be able to work from the hands, and so then you need an alternate grip. And if they're having wrist trouble or forearm trouble and you can't do it, if you just slide your hand down the upper arm, you'll find you come to rest on the epicondyles. So just north, just proximal to the elbow is another good grip for this, and the principles are the same. Extend, rotate, displace, and you get exactly the same sequence going through the body, and that's really comfortable. What I don't want you to do, what I recommend anyway that you don't do, is grab the lower arm like this and try to make it work through the lower arm. You feel how stiff you get when I do that? It's really hard to make this sequence work, yeah. So just let your hand go down to the elbow, and then you'll be able to take this right through, no problem. Now, some people are going to have trouble in the shoulders, and they're not going to allow you to do this in the shoulders at all. But we have an alternative way of getting to it, and that's to do this from the feet. So let's do that now. So the procedure down here at the foot is just about the same as the procedure up in the arm. The grip's a little different. Just drop the heel into your hand so it fits comfortably. Grab a hold of that medial arch or the big toe side of the foot and lean away, extend, rotate in the direction that you want the body to turn, then carry the leg across the body, and you'll feel it sequence all the way up through the ribs and the shoulder to the neck. And it's the same over here. Watch now. The way the knee is constructed, you pick up the whole leg when you first pick it up, but then you get the hip, and as the hip begins to lift, you feel it sequencing through the lower back, from the lower back to the lower ribs, middle ribs, upper ribs, and finally into the neck. I don't mean to show off, but you can feel such subtleties in this. If I just go right through here, I can feel at about T6 or T5, Leah has a little hitch in her get-along in those facet joints in her back, and with that information I might change, direct what I'm going to do for treatment. Now, some people cannot lie with their arms up. So Leah, if you just bring your arms down, it's preferable that they lie with the arms up, because then they're rolling over the armpit instead of rolling over the shoulder, which is a longer lever arm. But if you look here, you can still do the same thing even if somebody can't put the arms up, at least most of it. So we would sequence through the hips, the rib cage, and the neck up to where it runs up against the shoulder. You can't go quite as far with this. It's not quite as much fun, but you can still tell almost everything the same. Okay, we've brought Leah down to the floor here so that I can show you how this motion is in its fullness, because you can't take it all the way to its conclusion on the table or people would fall off. If we brought her all the way over, she would go from back to front. Extend, rotate, displace. By the way, coming back is exactly the same thing. Extend, rotate, and put her hand right over here, and around she comes. Same thing over here. Extend, rotate, displace, and the spiral goes right through the body, and she comes over from back to front. Extend, rotate, put the hand over here, and back she comes. Now, you might notice that this is significantly, and it is significant, that this is the first postural change that a baby makes. Baby is always able to lie on its back, and the first thing that it does is, at about 6 months or so, in terms of postural change, roll to the side and then to the front to look around, and then to roll back again from front to back. If you'll notice what happens when she does this as a baby, as she comes over, the head comes up and she's able to look around. So I've been organizing this movement in terms of Leah and in terms of the assessment that we were doing in terms of the hand, organizing it from the hand. A baby will organize it different ways. For instance, Leah, if you take your leg and just cross your leg across your body and just follow that, follow that, follow that, you can create the same motion from the foot as we did on the table. And the same thing, bring your foot back over your body, rotate it, and boom, there you are. So we could motivate this from any place. A baby is likely to motivate it from the eyes. So Leah, if you just watch my finger, let your body follow, and boom, there you come. And if you were to come back, all we have to do is spiral around that way, and back she goes. So a baby is usually looking after mom. Where's mom? Where's mom? Where's mom? And organizes a turning over. Now, this motion then is very, very primal, very, very fundamental, and moves from the one state of being on the back to a more advanced state, if you'll forgive it, of lying on the belly. But we could organize this motion from a variety of different places. We see the sequencing, say, from the hip all the way over. You can motivate it from the foot, as we saw before. You could even motivate it from the rib cage from one side to the other. The important is not where you start. The important part is the sequencing. If Leah makes herself like a log and I try to turn her, oh, I really have to work, and she feels no connection through the body. And unfortunately, this is the way a lot of us are today, really logged up and stiffened up. So a lot of effort and shakiness is required in that. Once the body gets this kind of sequencing, it's really easy to move from one state to the other. Anyway, we'll go back to the table, but I just wanted you to see what the basis of this very fundamental, very simple, very easy, once you've done it a number of times, movement is. Okay, so you can notice in this developmental sequence we've gone from back to front, just as a baby would do. But you know, that's not the end of what a baby does. So, front to back, back to front. Baby's head is up. What's the baby next going to do? Baby's next going to look over its shoulder and look up, look over its shoulder and look up and come to sitting. That's the next developmental place, the next posture that a baby will take. And if the baby looks over its shoulder, and just puts its hands down, boom, it'll come next to crawling, where it's got three great big heavy weights up in the air. And now turn this way, and we come onto one foot, and finally put your weight over that foot, and boom, up we are to standing. This developmental sequence, of which the assessment that we've been working with is only the first stage, is a really important, I think, generator towards natural movement. We'll be exploring this in a future tape in which we'll devote entirely to working with this kind of movement sequence. But this first assessment that we've done, with the back functional line turning from back to front and the front functional line turning us from front to back, that's the first part of the sequence, and it's a very useful assessment. So there you have it, a lot of ways of assessing and working and playing in the functional lines. I hope you enjoyed this program and the other programs in this series. Good luck and good skill.